Why I canceled my sister's dream wedding. Before we begin the story, make sure to subscribe to our channel and never miss more incredible stories every day. I canceled my sister's wedding the night before she walked down the aisle. I'm Alex, 30, the designated reliable one, with spare batteries, color-coded folders, and the EMT habit of scanning every room for exits. Lena calls it my disaster brain. I figured the worst case for her Tuscan-themed ceremony was a wilted arch or a tipsy uncle. I didn't imagine the disaster would be on paper, wearing my name like a stolen suit. At rehearsal dinner, under sweating jars of lemonade and strings of cafe lights, Lena toasted her fiancé, Ryan, steadfast, good, too trusting, and then she toasted me. To Alex, she said, the sibling who can fix anything, except their tendency to overreact. Laughter popped like bubble wrap around the garden. I laughed too, because that's the currency of peace in our family. Ruth, our mother, dabbed her eyes, mouthed be nice, and I tried. Then the venue manager pulled me aside with a smile nailed to her face. So glad your cosign cleared, she said, handing me a clipboard for tomorrow's final sweep. My ribs went cold. I hadn't cosigned anything. In the restroom, with the fan droning, I opened my email and found a past due notice for a bridal vendor consolidation loan, with my address and a signature that looked like mine if you squinted from across a freeway. The attached ledger showed charges labeled gifts. Gifts don't accrue interest at 9%. I cornered Lena by the dessert table. Why does this contract have my name? She didn't blink. Relax, she said brightly. It's standard. Everyone does it. I'll square it after the honeymoon. Ryan smiled at me, grateful, convinced this was a sibling spat about napkins. Ruth gripped my elbow. Not tonight, she whispered. Don't embarrass your sister. Outside, I called Marcus, my cousin and forensic accountant by hobby. I sent screenshots. He called back on the second ring. That signature block metadata was edited 2 days ago, he said, voice flat. And the funding account didn't originate with Lena. A strand of lights flickered overhead as if the night itself were warning me to stop pretending. And I realized my laugh had been the last sound before a break. Lena and I grew up in a 2-bedroom where attention was weather. She made sunshine. I checked the gutters. She learned to turn rooms. I learned to turn screws. You're good at small things, she'd say, which is how people bless you for being invisible. When we were kids, it didn't matter. As adults, Lena being Lena, started arriving as unpaid balances and apologies typed like confetti. Ruth called it ambition. I called it subtraction. When Lena met Ryan, I let myself hope. The guy quotes warranty terms and keeps every receipt. He believes facts have edges. The first crack showed a week before rehearsal in a bridal shop that smelled like starch and roses. I offered to pick up the veil. The clerk smiled, tapped the screen, and chirped, "Thanks for covering the rush fee again." Again. My card had never touched a veil. I paid the tiny bill to avoid a scene and took the receipt like a splinter under my nail. That night, I checked our shared planning spreadsheet. New line items had appeared under wellness/beauty, amounts small enough to hide in noise but frequent enough to hum. 2 withdrawals pinged my account from a processor I didn't recognize. 3 hit Ruth's. When I raised it, Ruth sighed. Your sister's under pressure. We'll settle up after the wedding. Later is where truth goes to mold. At rehearsal, Lena breezed past red flags with charm. She made a joke into the mic about me, loving rules more than people, and guests laughed because it felt safe to laugh at me. I let them, because it's what I do when peace is fragile. But the bathroom email changed the chemical mix. I sent Marcus the PDF. He sent back 3 red flags in under a minute. Mismatched fonts, overwritten fields, and a cosign address that led to Ruth's house, not mine. I looked in the mirror at my good shirt and steady hands and saw a useful idiot in crisp cotton. And I knew being useful had made me the perfect mark. Marcus said, go to the bank first thing. Ask for ACH detail and device IDs. Say fraud review, not wedding. Freeze your credit tonight. I did, thumbs shaking over forms I usually fill out for strangers in ambulances. By morning, I was in a glass office that smelled like toner while a manager printed my future in 2 pages. The venue payments came through a line opened in your name 3 months ago, she said gently. E-consent signed from a residential IP. She turned the screen. Ruth's Wi-Fi, masked as a blessing. The recovery email ended in a domain I recognized from Lena's old Burner shopping phase. I called Ruth from the parking lot. Asphalt blurring in heat. Tell me you didn't know. A long pause, then. I thought it was a bridge, just till after the honeymoon. She promised. My mouth tasted like pennies. Mom, she used my name. Ruth's voice shrank. She said you'd agreed. I drove straight to the venue. The coordinator offered mints and a practice smile, pulled the file, and slid out the contract. There it was, additional responsible party. Alex, the last name spelled with my tidy slant, the date stamped from yesterday. After I told Lena I wouldn't sign anything else. Who brought this? I asked. Your sister, she said. She said you forgot to swing by. I texted Marcus a photo. He called at once. It's a crude forgery, but vendors won't care before Monday. If she pushes another charge tonight, you're on the hook until a dispute crawls through. I slumped in the plastic guest chair and stared at the cancellation clause that read like a dare. Ryan deserved better than a marriage subsidized by fraud. I deserved better than being recast as guarantor to Lena's image. Ruth deserved the truth, even if she'd asked not to see it. The hummingbird logo on the venue contract vibrated above my name like a lie pretending to be pretty. And I understood the only person who could stop this was me. The rehearsal dinner had the fizz of champagne and the crackle of nerves. Ryan clinked his glass, thanking everyone for standing with us. He looked at Lena like she invented sunlight. I wanted to believe it was true. But when Lena stood to speak, she raised her glass and said, "And let's thank my brother Alex, who's always so careful. Without him, none of this would be possible." Her words sliced, coated in honey. Guests laughed, some clapped. Ryan leaned in, whispering, "She's just teasing. You know she adores you." My jaw tightened. After the speeches, I stepped outside for air. Marcus's text buzzed. "Got more loan payments scheduled through your account this weekend." My pulse climbed. I called him back. "It's locked in. She'll draw funds during the reception. Venue, caterer, band. Every charge runs through your line." I stared at the string lights glowing against the night, each bulb pulsing like a countdown. Inside, Lena posed with bridesmaids, her laughter high and easy. Ruth approached me with a smile that felt stapled. "Don't ruin this," she whispered, gripping my wrist. "Your sister has waited her whole life." I yanked my arm free. "She's building her dream with my credit. That's theft." Ruth's eyes welled. "It's just money. Family is more." Later, by the dessert table, I caught Lena alone. "Cancel the account," I hissed. I saw the transfers. She didn't flinch. "You're dramatic. By Monday, it's all squared. Ryan will never know. Why do you always need to be the hero?" I laughed bitterly. "Hero? I'm the collateral." Her smile was cold. "Collateral keeps dreams alive." That night, I lay awake, the forged signature looping in my head like a refrain. The music from rehearsals still echoed, but the sweetness had soured. And I realized Lena wasn't afraid of being caught. She was daring me to act. Morning light did nothing to ease the weight. Marcus arrived at my apartment with coffee and a folder fat with printouts. "This isn't just one loan," he said, sliding pages across my table. 3 separate accounts, all under your name, opened within 6 months. Payments scheduled through your credit and savings. I flipped through them, the numbers blurring. Why didn't any alerts trigger? He tapped a line. She rerouted statements to a burner email. Smart enough to dodge the basics, sloppy enough to leave IP logs. I pressed my palms to my eyes. Ryan's going to stand at that altar thinking he's marrying a dream. Marcus leaned back. "Or a scheme. You've got a choice, silence or exposure." At noon, Ruth stopped by with muffins, her version of damage control. "Think of Anna," she said, meaning Lena. "She deserves happiness." I shoved the folder toward her. "She's stealing it, along with my future." Ruth didn't look at the pages. "If you love her, let it go." My laugh cracked. "Love isn't writing blank checks in someone else's name." Ruth's shoulders sagged. "If you speak, you'll be the villain forever." That afternoon, I saw Ryan outside the venue, adjusting his tie in the reflection of a glass door. He grinned when he spotted me. "Thanks for helping with everything. Lena says you've been incredible." His gratitude landed like a knife. I wanted to warn him, but the word stuck. He deserved truth, not pity. Back home, I arranged the evidence into a binder, statements, emails, screenshots. Each page was a brick in a wall she'd built on my back. Marcus nodded. "This will hold in court if it comes to that." I swallowed hard. "But first, it has to hold in a family room. And I understood tomorrow's wedding could either crown a bride or expose a thief. The hours before the wedding moved like slow thunder. I wore the suit I'd bought months ago, back when I thought my role was simply walking Lena down an aisle and holding my speech steady. Instead, my pocket felt heavy with a flash drive, and the binder rode shotgun in Marcus's car. At the church, the air was thick with lilies and expectation. Guests laughed, organists rehearsed chords, bridesmaids lined up like painted statues. Lena glided through the vestibule, hair pinned, gown a cloud. She caught my eye and smirked. "Don't ruin this, Alex. You'll regret it more than I ever could." My stomach twisted. Marcus whispered, "It's now or never. Ryan signs post-nuptial documents tonight. If he signs, he inherits the debt as joint liability." My breath stalled. She planned this all along? He nodded grimly. "It's fraud dressed in lace." I cornered Ruth near the pews. "You knew about the accounts." She avoided my gaze. "A mother protects her children. Both of you." My voice sharpened. "Protecting one while sacrificing the other isn't love. It's complicity." She flinched, but said nothing. Ryan appeared, adjusting cufflinks. "You two okay?" I forced a smile. "Fine. Just last-minute jitters." He laughed, oblivious, and hurried away. The officiant called 5 minutes. Marcus touched the binder. "Either you hand it over now, or Lena walks free." I thought of the laughter at the rehearsal, the forged signature, the way Lena's eyes gleamed with certainty that no one would stop her. The bells tolled once, shaking stained glass with solemn promise. And I realized silence would mean giving my sister the weapon to destroy us all. Marcus and I slipped out during the prelude music, ducking into the bank across the street that had Sunday staff on call for event vendors. I showed my ID, trembling as I asked for full ACH transaction history. The clerk frowned. "These authorizations are linked to a joint household account." My throat tightened. "What household?" She pointed at the screen. "Lena and Alex. Joint account created 2 months ago." The address was mine. The email was hers. Marcus leaned in. "Pull the device logs." The clerk hesitated but obliged. The login trail led back to Ruth's Wi-Fi, then bounced to a mobile hotspot under Lena's name. "She built an entire phantom account to funnel wedding expenses," Marcus muttered. "Smart enough to ride your credit, dumb enough to leave footprints." I printed everything. The ink was still warm when I stuffed pages into the binder. Back at the church, Lena's friends gossiped near the dressing room. She said Ryan's parents are covering everything, but they seemed shocked. Another voice chimed. "She told me Alex is footing the bill. Hero sibling." My jaw locked. 2 versions, 1 truth. I slipped into a quiet hallway and overheard Lena hissing into her phone. "It doesn't matter if Alex finds out. By the time he proves anything, I'll be Mrs. Ryan and untouchable." My skin went hot. She knew I was closing in. When I confronted her minutes later, her smile was razor thin. "You wouldn't dare," she whispered. "If you speak, you'll ruin me, and Ryan will hate you forever." And I realized Lena believed her lies were stronger than my proof. That night, long after the guests left rehearsal cocktails half drunk and vows unspoken, I sat with Marcus in my apartment floor surrounded by paper. Credit pulls, vendor invoices, hidden emails, all threaded into a timeline. The pattern was undeniable. Lena had borrowed thousands, backdated receipts, and signed contracts in my name. And tomorrow, Ryan would legally inherit the liability once he signed post-nuptial agreements Lena had prepared. "I know what she hid," I said quietly. "It isn't just debt. She forged a prenup clause, inserting joint liability clauses without Ryan's consent. She's stealing his future before the marriage even begins." Marcus nodded grimly. "If he signs tomorrow, he's tethered to her lies." I pressed my hands into my face. "So it's not just about me. It's about him too." My phone buzzed Ruth. Her voicemail said, "Alex, please, don't. Families survive silence. Weddings don't survive scandal." Her words felt like a stone pressed to my chest. I couldn't sleep. I paced, binder under my arm like a weapon. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw Lena at the altar smiling, Ryan clasping her hands, and my name inked on debts they would never escape. At dawn, Marcus poured coffee and said, "You have one option. Present it. Clean, direct, undeniable. Either Lena caves, or Ryan walks away knowing truth." I stared at the binder. Each page felt heavier than the last. And I understood that tomorrow wasn't a wedding. It was a countdown to detonation. The morning sun painted the venue gold, but inside, nerves buzzed like a hive. Guests arranged themselves with chatter, oblivious to the storm underneath. I carried the binder close to my chest, Marcus at my side. Ryan caught my eye, his smile open, trust unshaken. I nearly collapsed under the weight of what he didn't know. Lena floated in, radiant in her gown. She leaned close as she passed me, whispering, "Don't you dare. One word, and you'll never be forgiven." Her perfume was sweet, but her words reeked of poison. Marcus muttered, "It's time." We walked into the side chapel where Ruth waited, pale and anxious. "Alex, I beg you," she said, clutching my hand. "Think of the family. Think of the guests." I pulled free. "I'm thinking of Ryan and myself." We arranged chairs. I set the binder on the table, flipping it open to the forged contracts, highlighted transfers, the prenup clause. Ruth gasped. "She wouldn't." Marcus cut her off. "She did. It's airtight." I texted Ryan, "Meet me before vows. Urgent. Bring Lena." 10 minutes later, they walked in together, Lena's smile flickering when she saw the documents. "What is this circus?" she demanded. Ryan frowned. "Lena, what's going on?" I slid the binder forward. "This is your dream wedding, funded by fraud, signed in my name. And tomorrow, you inherit the debt." The silence snapped so loud it felt like glass breaking. And I knew the next word spoken would either shatter or save us all. Lena's face twisted between fury and fear. "This is insane," she said, voice sharp enough to cut. "Alex has always been jealous. He fabricated this to sabotage me." She clutched Ryan's arm like a lifeline. "Don't listen. He's bitter." Ryan frowned, flipping through the binder. His eyes caught on the signature, his lips pressing thin. "This looks like Alex's handwriting," he murmured. Lena seized the moment. "Exactly. He's dramatic. He'll do anything for attention." I leaned forward. "Check the metadata." Marcus traced it. "Your bride has been forging documents in my name and yours." Ryan hesitated, his brow furrowing deeper with each page. "Lena, is this true?" Her eyes welled instantly, tears summoned like an actress on cue. "How could you believe him? He's ruining our day." Ruth stepped in, hands trembling. "Please, both of you, stop this. This isn't the place." My laugh was bitter. "There's never a place for truth, is there, Mom? Just silence." Ryan's groomsmen poked his head in. "They're ready for you." Lena turned on me, whispering low enough only I could hear. "If you open your mouth out there, I'll make sure Jamie hears you're unstable. You'll lose more than me." Marcus grabbed my shoulder as she swept out, dragging Ryan behind her. "She's rattled. You almost had him." My chest tightened. Almost isn't enough. The organ swelled in the distance, and guests shifted in their seats. And I realized Lena's last weapon was my fear of losing everything. The service began, guests rising as Lena floated down the aisle. She looked angelic, radiant, the picture of innocence, but I knew the rot beneath the lace. Ryan's smile faltered when his eyes flicked to me. I held his gaze, then glanced at the binder resting on the pew beside Marcus. The officiant's voice echoed. "We are gathered here to witness." My hands shook. Ruth hissed from behind me, "Don't you dare." My pulse thundered. Every second pushed Ryan closer to signing papers that would bury him. As vows began, I rose. The scrape of my chair turned every head. "Wait." My voice cracked, but carried. "There's something you need to see." Gasps rippled. Lena's eyes shot daggers. "Sit down, Alex," she spat, the mask slipping for the first time. Ryan's face paled. I walked to the altar, binder in hand. "Ryan, before you promise forever, look at what forever means. Debt, forgery, lies." I opened pages in front of guests, holding them high. Lena lunged, but Marcus intercepted her. Murmurs filled the air, gasps punctuating every highlighted clause. The officiant froze, helpless. Ruth wept, burying her face. Ryan's father stood, anger blazing. "Explain this," he demanded of Lena. She stammered, voice cracking. "It's not what it looks like." The silence thickened, every eye on her, every lie unraveling at once. And I knew the moment of truth had arrived with nowhere left to hide. Ryan grabbed the binder, flipping furiously through the documents. His face drained of color. "Lena, these accounts are in Alex's name. These clauses, they make me responsible too." She reached for his hand, pleading. "It was just until after the honeymoon. I needed help." Her voice cracked, but Ryan pulled back as if burned. You forged his name. You lied to me. You were going to trap me. Gasps erupted. A bridesmaid whispered, "Oh my God." Aunt Ruth, our aunt, not my mother, stood from the pews, her voice firm. I warned you, Lena. Secrets rot everything. Lena's mask shattered. I did it for us. For the dream. For this perfect day. Her voice grew shrill. Ryan's father shook his head. You tried to build a marriage on fraud. There's no future in that. Ryan turned to me, eyes raw. Thank you for telling me. I wish it hadn't been today, but thank you. I nodded, my throat tight. Lena screamed, pointing at me. You ruined me. You always wanted to be the hero, Alex. Now everyone sees you for what you are, a destroyer. The officiant quietly closed his book, the ceremony dissolving into chaos. Guests murmured, filing out, whispers trailing like smoke. Ruth collapsed into a pew, sobbing. Marcus placed a steadying hand on my shoulder. The music cut abruptly, and the silence thundered louder than any bells. And I realized nothing would ever restore what shattered in that room today. The reception hall stood empty, flowers wilting in their vases, champagne left unopened. Ryan had left with his parents, pale and silent. Lena sat in the bridal suite, still in her gown, mascara streaking her cheeks like war paint. Ruth hovered nearby, stroking her daughter's arm, whispering about forgiveness. When I stepped in, Lena's eyes snapped up. Satisfied, she hissed. You destroyed me. Everyone will remember me as a fraud. I swallowed, the sting of her words hitting deep. You did this to yourself. I just refused to cover it. She threw her bouquet at me, petals scattering like shrapnel. You think you're a savior, but all you'll ever be is alone. Later, Marcus and I walked to my car. You'll get heat for this, he said quietly. Families fracture when truth erupts. But fractures let the rot escape. I nodded, staring at my trembling hands. News traveled fast. Cousins texted me variations of how could you. Aunts called Lena misunderstood. Even Ruth sent one final voicemail. You could have waited. You didn't have to humiliate her. I replayed Ryan's devastated face in my mind and shook my head. If I had waited, he'd be shackled to her deception forever. Still, isolation crept in like cold fog. The phone stopped ringing. Invitations dried. Even Emily, my other sibling, stayed neutral. At night, I lay awake replaying Lena's scream. And I knew my family would brand me villain long before they saw me hero. Weeks passed. Ryan reached out once, quietly, through Marcus. Thank him, he'd said. He saved me. But he didn't call me directly, and I didn't blame him. He was grieving too, not just a wedding, but the life he thought he was walking into. Lena moved back into Ruth's house, barricading herself in denial. Word spread she blamed stress, lies, even me forging the papers, a desperate rewriting of truth. I started therapy. My counselor's office smelled of coffee and books, calm against the storm. You can't carry the weight of their refusal to see, she told me. You didn't break the family. The lies did. Her words sank like stones into water, rippling but steady. Marcus kept me sane. You set boundaries no one else dared to. That's not villainy. That's courage. Together, we filed the fraud reports, locked down my credit, froze accounts Lena had exploited. Step by step, I built walls against further damage. One evening, Ruth came by unannounced. She stood in my doorway, eyes hollow. I don't know if I can ever forgive you, she whispered. I took a breath. You don't have to, but you also don't get to ask me to forgive her lies. For once, Ruth didn't argue. She turned and left. The house felt both emptier and freer in her absence. And I realized healing wasn't about them. It was about reclaiming myself from their shadows. Months later, the binder still sat on my shelf, thick with ink and truth. Sometimes I touched it, not as a weapon anymore, but as a reminder. Ryan eventually wrote me a letter. You spared me a lifetime of debt and misery. One day, I hope we meet again, not as broken people, but as survivors. I folded it carefully and kept it in the binder. Proof that one person, at least, understood. I saw Lena once at the grocery store. She didn't look at me. She passed silently, cart full of wine and wilted flowers. I didn't chase her. Some wounds fester until they choose to heal. What I learned is simple. Family isn't defined by shared blood or ceremonies. It's defined by truth, respect, and trust. Silence may protect appearances, but it corrodes from within. Sometimes the bravest love you can give is saying no, when everyone begs for yes. I sit now in a quieter home, coffee steaming, Marcus's laughter still a phone call away. I've learned to guard my name, my finances, and my dignity. And if anyone listening has faced betrayal from someone close, I'll say this. You aren't crazy for demanding honesty. You aren't cruel for exposing lies. Because peace doesn't come from silence. It comes from finally speaking the truth out loud. And I knew I would never again confuse protecting lies with protecting love.